Morning at the small cafe moved quietly until a large man deliberately slammed into a corner table. Coffee splashed across the shirt of the man sitting there. Laughter erupted. A few customers joined in like it was harmless fun. The man in the wet shirt did not yell. He did not argue. He stood slowly and locked eyes with the one who hit him. That stare cut through the noise. The entire cafe went silent in a single breath. No one moved. No one spoke. Who was this man? The man in the corner booth had arrived early. He chose that table for a reason. His back was to the wall. He could see the entrance and the entire room without turning his head. Old habits stayed long after the need for them disappeared. Ethan Cross sat with his hands wrapped around a mug of black coffee. He wore a faded gray Henley and jeans that had seen better days. Nothing about him suggested he wanted conversation. His face carried the kind of stillness that came from years of watching and waiting. 44 years old, lean, unremarkable to anyone who did not know where to look. The watch on his left wrist was not the kind sold in shopping malls. It was military issue, scratched, functional, the sort of thing a man kept because it had been through what he had been through. He was not reading. He was not scrolling through his phone. He was simply there, present. The cafe was small and locally owned, the kind of place where the coffee was strong, and the pastries came from a bakery 2 blocks away. Ethan liked it because it was quiet in the mornings. He could think here. He could breathe here. He could forget for a little while that the world had once demanded everything from him and that he had given it willingly. His phone buzzed on the table. He glanced down. A text from his daughter. She was 12. Her name was Lily. The message was short. Don't forget. Pick up at 3:15. Love you, Dad. He typed back with one hand. I won't forget. Love you too. He set the phone down and looked out the window. Lily was the reason he was still here. She was the reason he had walked away from everything else. Her mother had died when she was 6. Cancer, fast, and brutal. Ethan had been overseas when it started. By the time he made it home, the doctors were already talking about months instead of years. He left the service 3 weeks after the funeral. No one argued. No one asked him to stay. They understood. Raising a daughter alone was harder than anything he had done in uniform. There were no clear objectives, no teams, no backup. Just him and a little girl who cried in the middle of the night and asked questions he did not know how to answer. He learned. He adapted. He became the kind of father who braided hair before school and knew the names of all her friends and showed up to every soccer game, even when he was exhausted. The cafe started to fill. It was Saturday morning. Families came in with strollers. College students claimed tables and spread out laptops. A line formed at the counter. The noise level rose. Voices overlapped. An espresso machine hissed. Someone laughed too. Loud. Ethan did not mind. He had learned to filter sound, to separate what mattered from what did not. He finished his coffee and considered ordering another. That was when Miller walked in. Ethan recognized him. Everyone who came here regularly recognized Miller. He was the kind of man who made sure you did. Tall, broad-shouldered, late 30s. He wore a leather jacket even though it was not cold enough for one. He moved through the cafe like he owned it. Loud, entitled, the kind of person who believed the world owed him space and attention simply because he demanded it. Miller had a habit of pushing boundaries. He cut in line. He spoke over people. He made jokes at the expense of others and expected them to laugh along. Most people did. It was easier than confrontation. Ethan had seen him before. He had watched the way Miller treated the staff, the way he leaned too close when he talked to women, the way he made himself the center of every room he entered. Ethan had stayed out of it. It was not his business. He was just there. For the coffee. Miller walked past the counter without ordering. He scanned the room. His eyes landed on Ethan. Something shifted in his expression. Maybe it was boredom. Maybe it was the need to prove something. Ethan did not look away. He simply met Miller's gaze and held it for a second before returning his attention to his empty mug. Miller changed direction. He walked toward the corner booth. His stride was deliberate, confident. He moved between tables without excusing himself. A woman with laptop had to pull her chair in to let him pass. She did not say anything. Miller did not acknowledge her. Ethan saw him coming. He did not move. He sat perfectly still. His hands stayed on the table. His breathing stayed even. He knew what was about to happen. He had seen men like Miller before. Men who mistook silence for weakness. Men who needed to dominate because they had nothing else. Miller reached the table. He did not stop. He turned his body at the last second and slammed his hip into the corner of it. The impact was hard, intentional. The table lurched. Ethan's mug tipped over. Coffee spilled across the surface and dripped onto his lap. The liquid was still warm. It soaked through the denim and spread across his thigh. Miller stepped back and looked down at the mess. He grinned. It was not the kind of grin that suggested apology or embarrassment. It was the grin of someone who had just done exactly what he intended to do. "Whoa," Miller said, his voice carried across the cafe. "My bad, man. Didn't see you there." The lie was obvious. Everyone within 10 feet had seen what happened. Miller had walked directly into the table. There was no accident, no mistake, just a man testing another man to see what he would do. Ethan looked down at the coffee spreading across his jeans. He looked at the puddle forming on the floor. Then he looked up at Miller. He did not speak. He simply waited. Miller's grin widened. He glanced around the room. A few people.